Have you ever found yourself staring at a set of blueprints, not knowing where to start? The secret is actually right here, in the title block. It's the starting point for understanding any blueprint. So let's start with the basics. What is the title block? The title block is like the blueprint's identity card. It's where you find all the critical information about the project, the drawing itself, and the people behind it. Think of it this way. If a blueprint is a map, the title block is the legend. It tells you where you are, who drew the map, and what the map covers. Without this information, you're essentially working blind. First up, the project name. The project name tells you exactly what you're looking at. It might seem obvious, but when you're managing or working on multiple projects at the same time, whether it's a new home, a commercial space, or even just a renovation, knowing exactly which blueprint you're holding is essential. Imagine getting your hands on a blueprint, starting work, and realizing it's for the wrong house or building. Nightmare, right? This is especially important for builders or contractors working on multiple sites simultaneously. The project name makes sure you're working on the correct project, and it's usually the largest piece of text in the title block, making it easy to spot. Next up is the architect, engineer, or contractor information. This is your point of contact for the project. Think of this as the blueprint's author. Every blueprint has a designer behind it, usually an architect or an engineer, and their information is right here in the title block. Let's say you're in the middle of construction and you hit a snag. A detail on the blueprint doesn't match what's happening in the field. Maybe the wall's positioning is unclear, or a specific material isn't mentioned. The first thing you do, look at this section. It tells you exactly who to call to get those questions answered. Trust me, this will save you hours of frustration on site. It also shows the credibility of the project. If a licensed architect or structural engineer is responsible, you know you're working from a solid foundation. Now, this is a big one, the drawing date. Every single time a blueprint is drawn or updated, the date gets marked here. You might think, why does that matter? But here's the thing, construction projects change all the time. What was designed 6 months ago could be totally different today. Here's a scenario. You're on a construction site and you have 2 blueprints in front of you, one drawn a year ago and one from last month. Without checking the drawing date, you might be looking at outdated information. The building could have been redesigned to account for site conditions, budget adjustments, or even client preferences. Always verify the date before you start building or planning. Another critical piece of info, the sheet number. Especially for large projects, blueprints aren't just a single sheet. They're an entire set of drawings. You could have 10, 20, sometimes even 100 pages of drawings, all telling a different part of the story. The sheet number tells you where this particular page fits into the larger set. All right, let's talk about the scale, one of the most important details in the entire blueprint. You see, blueprints are basically miniature versions of the real thing, drawn to a scale to fit all the details onto a single page. But every blueprint uses a different scale, and without understanding it, you'll never know how to translate the drawing's measurements into real-world dimensions. So what does that mean? Let's say your blueprint says, scale 1 inch equals 10 feet. That means that for every inch on the paper, it represents 10 feet in real life. This is essential for reading room sizes, wall lengths, and distances between elements. Here's a pro tip. Always double-check the scale for each page of the blueprint. Sometimes, different pages use different scales, especially when you're looking at details or sections. You don't want to assume that everything is drawn to the same scale. Check each page and make sure you're reading it correctly. So why is the title block so important? Well, it's not just about knowing who designed the project or when the drawing was made. It's about making sure you're working with the right information at the right time. Imagine this. You're halfway through building a house, and the client decides to add an extra window in the living room. The architect updates the blueprint, But if you don't check the revision date in the title block, you might be working off the old plans and miss that change entirely. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a few quick pro tips for working with title blocks. These will help you navigate blueprints more efficiently. Remember that the scale can change from page to page. Maybe the main floor plan uses a scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. But when you look at the detailed drawing of a kitchen countertop, it's scaled at 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. Always check the scale before you start measuring. Cross-reference the titles across pages. Large projects often have multiple types of plans: architectural, structural, mechanical, and so on. Make sure all the sheets match up in terms of scale, project name, and revision date. This will keep your project running smoothly and prevent miscommunication between different trades. So, there you have it. The title block may seem like a small part of the blueprint, but it carries some of the most important information you need to keep your project on track. Whether you're building a house or renovating a kitchen, understanding the title block ensures you're starting on the right foot. Comment what you'd like next, cheers, and see you on the next video.